Hi there, I'm Tom and welcome to the Welsh Woodman Workshop. I want to start off by saying apologies to my subscribers. Haven't posted a video in a long while, but I've been renovating the workshop. So I've been working hard, moved all my tools and equipment to one side of the workshop, and I've been digging up the workshop floor and laying slabs of concrete. So I'm on my last sort of section now. Now this is a job I've been meaning to do for over 5 years since we've moved into the place. You can see from the little video above there how bad the workshop floor is. My dog Connie there digging it up. We did actually find something that was a bit worrying. I'll probably reveal that in the video later on. But as my art fairs and craft fairs have been cancelled for the year, I thought this would be the optimum time to actually get this project done. So it's taken me a good few weeks, been working hard, but I thought I'd just show you in the video the progress and some of the things I've gone through in order to lay this floor. And hopefully then I'll get back to making some more wood turning and woodworking videos. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoy. This is going to be a mammoth sort of task digging this up, but essentially if we look at the floor itself, we've only got about less than an inch worth of concrete, and we've just got building sand and rubble and all sorts underneath there. So I think it'll be a really important thing to do, especially with the weight of the lathe on top of this. Dug out the floor with my little helper by hand, and then just measured up the height, width and depth to work out the volume. And in this case we needed 3 ton of concrete to fill this little area. So I fast forwarded throughout the really boring digging task, because who wants to see that? And what I've done with a lot of the rubble underneath, I had good solid bricks and bits of concrete. So I've used a little tiny hammer to break all these up into a form of hardcore. Now a far quicker and probably easier way of doing this was to get like a sub base, like MOT type 1. But I had all these bricks and it'd probably take up half the skip anyway. So I thought I'd utilise them for hardcore. So the next thing, we have to tamp these down, so whack these down. So in order to do that, ideally a whacker plate would be really good because you crush them and push them down. It's going to be a nightmare for me to get a whacker plate in here for such a small area. So I've just got this little tamping plate, so a compactor, and I'm going to do it by hand. So I could probably do with the workout anyway. So we're going to start off with this. Work my way round, and I'll see you in a few hours time. So the next step is to get this all level. So I compacted it down and put like a tiny bit of sand over the top to make sure it's level. And what the sand does is it stops any sharp bits of the hardcore piercing the damp course membrane that we're going to be putting on next. I'm using this rubble shovel. It's really good for shifting the sand. You take the top coat, skim layer off, shoveling where we need to be. And with the remaining sand then, when you've done shoveling, grab the bag. Bag's ready to go in the bin. So I'm using the back of the rake just to get this nice and evenly spreaded out. Then I can go back over the top with that tamper plate to whack it down and smooth everything out to make sure it's compressed. My little helper, inspecting the work. Oh, not good there, well done. Sort that out in a bit. So the next stage, I've got some steel rebar that I've bought in these little small sections because a big grid I just couldn't transport home. Plus getting it through the door would be a nightmare. So I'm just going to construct this little grid up, and normally you'd be able to use some like baling wire or fence wire to lash them together. Haven't got any wire, so I'm, rather than going out to the shop again, I've got the welder. I'm going to be tacking it into place with the welder, and by adding this rebar should help really reinforce the concrete then. We've got the damp course membrane down now after tamping down all that sand and getting it all nice and level. The rebar that I've welded up, I've got little rocks I'm using as spacers, so it's 1/3 up. So it's not ideal. You can get these little concrete spacer blocks, but I've already gone to the store once today, so I didn't want to go again. So I've got the cement mixer ready. So I've been working all on my own today, so I got a bit carried away and forgot about the camera for a while. But essentially what I've been doing is pouring it into the wheelbarrow, then moving the wheelbarrow into position and pouring it into the space. In order to reduce any air pockets underneath, I've been hitting it down with this plastering trowel. And you see where I've got my hand at the moment on the other board, I've been using that board to get it level across the width. As the space is tight, been using this smaller board to do that. Now, a far more efficient way of laying concrete would be to dig out the entire section, get an industrial lorry mixer and pour it all in one go. Just didn't have access round the back to my workshop to do that. plus I'd have to move all my tools and machinery and put them in storage, which worked out a lot more expensive than just laying it in smaller sections by hand. So I've really enjoyed the challenge of doing this. This slab that's been laid, so this is 1/3 of the workshop. So we've got this other part to dig out, but I've got to move all the tools and heavy machinery first, so I'm not looking forward to that, but at least one part is done, and hopefully now my lathe won't be sinking into the ground. So we're currently on the next section of the floor. You can see around the workshop I've had to move everything to one side behind me, which was a mammoth task just in itself. But if we zoom down to the floor, we can see the last sort of section that we have to cut out. Now this job I've been meaning to do for over 4 years, and this just proves exactly why I needed to do it. We've got the pillar there that's holding the roof beams across. No foundation underneath, so I'm going to have to, when I dig the rubble and the soil out from underneath that, I'm going to reinforce it with some breeze blocks. And they haven't actually been built into the wall, they've just been almost like glue gunned onto the side with cement, which isn't the best really. So we're going to improve those as we dig out the rest of this. Oh. Nasty bags, yes. Oh. Oh, finally all done.
Don't you have to move it to the skip now?
Yeah. So next section done, I've just shoveled out some sand, raked it level and compacted it down. Coarse membrane is down, and this is going to stop the damp rising up into the concrete, to keep all the moisture out. And the easiest way I found to neatly put it to the wall, again because those breeze blocks were getting moisture coming through, is I've got a wooden batten across the top there. I've drilled wall plugs into the wall, screwed the damp course to the wall, and it fits nice and snugly then. So that is the only downside, is that the beam's going to be there permanently, but that's pressure treated timber, so it should last a very long time. Now that's going to help me get a nice level smooth surface across the top. So I'm going to be using a board to shimmy across the top to make sure it's all level. Now I've got this piece, it's just a normal board like this, covered in the damp course because the concrete doesn't tend to stick to that. I'm going to be using that as I'm pouring in the concrete as like a barrier to stop the concrete from just flowing down. That's going to help me get a far more level floor. So I've learned from the experience from the other two parts of the floor, using the beams across, getting level with the existing floor area. So we're going to lay this small section. The concrete mix I'm going to go with is 4 buckets of ballast. Now ballast is a mixture of sand and rocks, and it's already been pre-mixed, so rather than mixing it by hand with stones and sand, this is a lot easier to use, I've found. And I've also found the buckets with the flat lips makes it a little bit easier in pouring into the cement mixer, especially being high up. So I'm going to be using a ratio of 4 buckets of ballast to 1 bucket of cement mix, and that will give us a really strong hold and foundation. About half a bucket of water I'm going to add into the side using the watering can. This just makes it easier, especially if you've got concrete in your hands. Then we're going to start checking in the buckets of ballast. In total I've had to lay 9 tons of concrete, so that's a lot of buckets of ballast moving from the front of the house to the back of the house, which has been keeping me busy for sure. I would suggest wearing a dust mask if you're going to do this normally inside. I'm not got it on at the moment, so I'm talking to the camera, so I can check this in a bit. See why you need a dust mask now with the dust? Don't want that going into your lungs. Like that. I'm going to turn them off just to show you. You can see that. When it's falling off in big clumps. It's quite a wet mix, this, so a little bit drier would normally go, but I want to work this into the corners for the first pour, so that's why I've got it to this sort of consistency. Right, I'm going to flip this guy round and do the first pour. So progress so far, we've got about half the floor laid. Got my lovely other half, working hard, getting the floor nice and level. So we've just got to mix up another couple of batches. You can see the retaining wall we're using to make sure it's not sloping down too much. And we can chivvy that in then to stop it from moving before we do the next batch. What we've been doing in between is using a long stick to go backwards and forwards across the existing floor to the wall batten, and that's how we've got the whole section nice and level so far. So final bit done for the night. So we've just screened across it, make sure we've got it nice and level. I know it's level because I've used a large spirit level across from the wall beam to the floor. Quite happy with that. So we've got a retaining wall there, keeping all this from flowing out. So this is it. We're going to call this a night for tonight. I've just made like a little T-bar holding that wall into place, ready to fill in this section tomorrow morning. So that's going to be the challenge. So it's the next day and the concrete is sort of roughly set. Obviously going to leave it 28 days before I put any heavy bits of equipment on it. So I'm just going to use a little claw hammer now to separate this, and by using a downforce membrane on this, you'll notice that it doesn't stick to it, the concrete, which is brilliant. So the next update then, so we're gradually working our way back then to this ledge. So we're using the cement mixer into the wheelbarrow, pouring it into the area. And as soon as we've got it pretty much roughly filled, we're going to be using the old stick technique to scrape it backwards and forwards to make sure we've got it nice and level with the batten on the wall and the existing floor. So the final section of the floor is now complete, out of the way, and we're ready then to wait for this to set. So in about a few weeks time I can start putting a nice sort of floor, rubber mat flooring down. Might do a video on that one as well if you're interested. And then we can start moving all the tools and machinery back into their correct places. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed tonight's video, and please remember to subscribe to see some more woodworking videos in the future. Thank you very much for watching. Diolch yn fawr. Nos da.